Bluff City Media presents the $2 Sports Show. Stepping up to the microphone are your hosts, Drew Gann and Rusty Witten. Now, let's get to the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to your Tuesday edition of the live $2 Sports Show, hanging out with you on your lunch break, talking all things Memphis Grizzlies. I'm your co-host, Rusty Buckus, checking in with my guy, Uncle Buck. Drew Gann, how are you, sir?
What's up? Happy lunch break, everybody. It is Tuesday. Happy lunch break to everybody in the continental United States, and good morning, Wayno. So, glad to be back here with you.
I hope the future is treating you well over there in Tomorrowland there, Wayno.
Yeah, it is Tuesday at lunch for everybody in the continental U.S. and Brazil, and it is tomorrow in Australia.
Yeah, so on the island that everything hates you and wants to murder you, including Wayno. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yes.
Just saying.
Yes.
But thanks for joining us here on this Tuesday. We got a lot of Memphis Grizzlies to get to, a lot of happenings. Thanks for joining us. Wayno, Maggie, Drew Gann is in the comments. I hear he's a local celebrity around here. Thanks for hanging out with us today. If you're on Twitter, pop on over to YouTube, hop in the comments. We got a lot of discussion today and want your input on these Grizzlies rotations and thoughts on our performance so far. But first, we must give the people what they want. Uncle Buck, set them up for us.
Jeez, that comment's huge.
Yeah, this is a new feature with StreamYard. My old ass I can actually read them now. So, welcome.
Slap me in the face with Wayno, why don't you? All right, yes. So we start every Tuesday edition of the $2 Sports Show with our best and beef of the week, where Rusty and I catch up over the happenings of a long weekend with the best thing that happened and the worst thing that happened. So I'll start. Listen, I love Christmas. It's well known. I've gotten really big into Christmas movie this week. You know, we started in November with the decorations, and this week we've gotten to the candies and the Christmas movies. And listen, it's just wide open. We've also had our first run-ins with family. So my family from East Tennessee came down and spent the weekend. We played golf on Saturday morning, and just had a good weekend. I can't really complain about it. But in the off case that my wife does watch this show,
better,
which she won't. Listen, it's an off chance, but I got to protect my home life. Let me take a minute and wish my beautiful wife a happy 29th birthday. I joked with her. I said it's the first of many 29th birthdays for my wife, because listen, she didn't wait till 29 to start dreading 30. Okay. And so, listen, just
youngin',
embrace it, honey. We're you're in our familiar territory here in our 30s. It ain't that bad. It's not that bad. So,
it's not. My 30s
happy
have been
birthday
good to me.
to my lovely wife.
Happy birthday, Mama Bear. We love and appreciate you around here.
All right, Rusty, your best of the weekend.
It was a good weekend. I spent a lot of time with family. Got to watch some movies with Dad. We watched Jason Bateman's new movie, Carry On. 2 thumbs up. It was very good. It was entertaining. He's such a diverse, good actor, kind of can be that funny man and be the sinister, serious guy. It was very good. And then last night, my nephew got his first varsity start as a sophomore, as a shooting guard, as my brother and the Alcorn Central Golden Bears beat the Biggersville Lions. It's a good win. I mean, Biggersville was a good basketball program and has won state recently. It was a good win for the Bears last night. And Ty got his first varsity start. So proud of you.
I'll tell you what, that stinks to high heaven. I'm telling you. If you want to start, just be the coach's kid. Am I right?
Oh, man. Yeah, exactly. His first start as a sophomore. I promise you this. My brother is harder on him than anybody because of that stigma. And Ty earned it. They played a smaller lineup last night to match Biggersville, and it worked, and they got the win.
Yeah, so Clarke, unlike his brother, is a pretty stand-up individual. And so I have to feel like your nephew had to do extra work to get the start, because there's no way he's going to hand it to him. So props to Ty getting the start. Biggersville, despite being a small school, is an athletic powerhouse in the state of Mississippi. And so,
it's a good win, man.
Good win. Yeah.
If you know from that neck of the woods, that's a good win. So what goes up must come down. Hit me with your beef.
Yeah, listen, we don't really talk other sports anymore on our $2 Sports Show, since we've kind of trimmed down and the length of the shows and went twice a week. But I've just got to say, there was 2 Monday Night Football games on last night, and they were not very good games for starters, and so that probably plays into it. And the fact that my New Orleans Saints stink as well. Listen, my care factor for the NFL it's kind of gone down a lot. And I think this is a personal issue. This is not a ratings conversation that everybody wants to have, right now with the NBA. And I'm not trying to take that into the NFL. It's just like personally, my care factor is down. And I think the correlation of that is that my care factor is so high with the Grizzlies. And for 82 games, I'm in it. And so I've traded off a lot of my fandom and my hours spent on the NFL with the NBA, and which is not a beef in itself, but I do find myself being a little out of touch with the NFL, which kind of really set home with me yesterday evening as there was 2 NFL games on Monday night, and I watched neither of them.
Yeah, I mean, same. Mississippi State is bad. Titans, bad. My fantasy football team's bad. This is like the least I've cared about football probably in the most of my adult life. And It's officially basketball season. I've got the Mississippi State baseball gear on. Like I'm ready for greener pastures. And yes, it's the same clothes I was wearing this morning on the daily grind. Wayno, for you, that was yesterday, but it was for me, it was pre-dentist appointment. So I went to the dentist, I came home, and now I'm back working and doing this. And so
Wayno's like, man, those are the same clothes you were wearing yesterday. Like it was just yesterday for you, buddy.
Yeah, it was just a few short hours ago. But yeah, I don't care about football right now, man. It's basketball season and
we're gonna have to talk a little college hoops. Maybe we can kind of bridge the gap with our Memphis brethren that cover the Memphis Tigers basketball in the next week, because your team and my team play Memphis in the next week in college basketball. We're both pretty high on our teams.
Yeah, State comes to the FedEx Forum next Saturday for a great game for both teams to help both. Memphis is the top 5 Ken Palm ranking in their strength of schedule. Ours is top 30. So, it's definitely a big game Saturday. But before we get that, my beef of the week is the same beef I had last week. It's Chick-fil-A, man. Like, they're on my list.
Oh, no.
Same Chick-fil-A where I didn't get my fries. Maybe that should have been my lesson. Well, Saturday morning, I'm driving a car to go see my family and hang out with my nephews and my dad. And I go to Chick-fil-A, I order on the app, I get my egg white grilled muffin that I usually get on the English muffin. I find out that I've got a free coupon for a yogurt parfait. I'm like, heck yeah, let's do it. They're really good at Chick-fil-A. So I get it. I get out on 240. I'm driving out on 385. I'm like, all right, I'm going to eat my parfait. They didn't give me a spoon. How am I supposed to eat this yogurt parfait without a spoon? And so I'm like, that's 0 for 2. The last 2 times I've gone there. Yeah, I'm going down 385 doing this. That's 2 times I've gone to this same Chick-fil-A and they've left out my fries and now a spoon. So Chick-fil-A, you're on my list.
This is the last time you are going to disparage Jesus Chicken and Chick-fil-A on this show, in which I'm half
Listen,
up.
man.
So
Listen, man.
veto all further complaints. You've got plenty to complain about without bringing Chick-fil-A into this.
Listen, this is twice they've messed up a meal of mine. I'm upset.
Also,
as a fellow fat guy, I don't mess up my meal.
You cannot play the fat card when you just said you ordered a yogurt parfait.
But if you see me walking down the street, you're like, yeah, that guy. I'm in between. Like, that guy works out, but he also likes to eat. That's my body type.
Yeah, same except for the first part. So let's move into the meat and potatoes of the Two Buck Sports
We're
Show.
done with the chicken talking. We're talking Memphis Grizzlies. Drew, we talk about the Marcus Smart experience all the time, the highs and lows that are Marcus Smart. I think there's a parallel there with our Memphis Grizzlies, the highs and lows of the Memphis Grizzlies. It has been quite the roller coaster year. We have lost to teams like Brooklyn, Chicago, and Houston. We have beaten teams like Boston. Good. Yeah, I mean, Houston's not bad. Yeah. We've beaten teams like Boston, Orlando, the Lakers. What is it to make of this Memphis Grizzlies team? The last thing, and I'll actually pose the question. This is my setup here. You get on Twitter, and when we win, everything's great. After a loss, the world is burning down, right?
You need to do better about that.
It's extremes one way or the other. So where do we land? Like, just a high level view. What do you think of the Memphis Grizzlies experience so far this year?
Well, there's no doubt it's been up and down, but primarily the down, I blame on injuries. I blame on, slow playing guys return into the lineups, things that we've talked about. we had a 7-game win streak that was snapped by Dallas in a game in which we were outshot at the free throw line in the fourth quarter, 26-30. Okay, then we went on a 4-game losing streak in which we snapped, which was snapped in a road loss to the Los Angeles Lakers, in which Anthony Davis was incredible and LeBron James was really good. And instead of just taking it in stride, and yes, I've got complaints. We'll get to them. Like, instead of taking it in stride, everybody wants to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And what is wrong with the Grizzlies? Well, it's an 82-game season in which we're 18-9, still in second place in the West. And I'm not just going to overreact. I'm going to pose some questions and make some notes to everybody of things that are concerning to me. But if you look at this in a 27-game bunch here, and you take into effect, you've got long stretches of time without Ja, long stretches of time without Desmond, long stretches of time without Zach Edey, long stretches of time. I mean, several players. I'm going to say that, like, I give it an A.
Agreed. I'm going to put here, caveat, asterisk, right? This is a good basketball team.
Yes.
Everything that we've been through, we have a new offense, new coaching staff. 2 of our best players, one hasn't played at all in Gigi Jackson Jr. Vince Williams Jr. played all of about 15 minutes, and then he got hurt again. And so we haven't seen this team in full capacity. So that's our caveat. Other thing is, there are some, I'll call them yellow flags. I don't think there's a ton of red flags with this team. I think there are some things that we could do better. I think there might be a trade out there that could make us better. But I think all in all, this is a really good Western Conference basketball team, because you think about it, like, we play in the SEC of the NBA, to make a college football parallel there. Like, we're playing it against the best of the best. There's no slouches in this conference, in the Western Conference. Now, in the Eastern Conference, you could get away with it. Like, if we had already made that transfer to the Eastern Conference, this would be a totally different conversation.
Right.
But instead, we're having to play the Lakers and Golden State consistently. The Kings are an upstart team. The Rockets, who you talked about earlier, are pretty good this year. The Dallas Mavericks are in our division. So for us to be 18-9 through 27 games, when, you know, we have some of our leading minute getters are Jake LaRavia and Santi Aldama and Scottie Pippen Jr., like, that's a whale of a start to a season. So that's kind of the all-encompassing top level. But it does pose the question, like, are we truly as good as we think we are, given all of that? Okay. So I just want to just kind of a high-level view here. We have played 27 basketball games. Of those, we have played 11 games against teams above 500, right? In those games, we are 5-6 with wins over Boston, Orlando, the Lakers, the Bucks, and the Nuggets. Those losses, we have lost to the Mavs, Houston, the Nuggets, Golden State, and the Lakers twice. Now, in the other games, we are currently sitting at 13-3 against teams that are below 500. Now, that tells me that we're handling our business. Earlier in the season, I was a little bit nervous.
2 of those losses are to Brooklyn.
Yes, exactly. And the other one's to the Bulls, Chicago, which is unexplainable. But anyway, like, we're beating bad teams, Drew, but some of that is some of the better teams we play, we do struggle against.
Yeah. So I've said it 1,000 times, and I think it's obvious. Good teams beat bad teams. We beat bad teams. In an 82-game season, you're not going to go undefeated against bad teams. But what'd you say, 12-3? Solid.
13-3, yeah.
13-3, solid. Now, this is the crux of my concern. I used an F word in my post-game bounce after the Lakers game. I did not call them frauds, but it is clear to me that this team is a front runner. They cannot rebound when they get down. And the only time, so 3 times this season, the Grizzlies have overcome a double-digit deficit to win the game. One game was against Chicago. They were down 21. That is impressive. You know, should you have been down? No, but you win. Who cares? That's impressive. The other 2 were early second quarter deficits to Indiana and to Detroit. Teams that Detroit's not good. Chicago's not good. Indiana's respectable. They're a going to be another Eastern Conference
fringe playoff team. Yeah.
So, but the problem is the Grizzlies either blow out teams or they get blown out. And when they are getting down, they cannot respond against good teams. You contrast this to Boston, which is by far the best win of the year. You led the whole game until the fourth quarter, and then you let them get the lead back, but then you responded. That's great, but that's the only time they've done that this year. Against this Lakers team, you got down early, and there's not that guy, and it's got to be Ja. I mean, it's just got to be Ja that's got to say, this isn't happening. But what happens when we have gotten down is that Ja gets more erratic. It's almost like, you score 10 points in a possession, and it's just not that meticulous chopping away at the lead. You saw it against Sacramento. Ja was awful that game. The bench got us back, and Taylor Jenkins ran with the bench to close the game, and we won. In this Lakers game, the bench, Luke Kennard led offense, chipped away at that Lakers lead, and the starters could not get us through. And so that's got to change. When you're 5-6 against teams above 500, that's telling me that your best players aren't taking over. Jaren was incredible, but this, we had the discussion a couple weeks ago as to who's the best player on this team. Jaren may be the best player on this team right now. I think it's unquestionably that he is. He is not the most important. Jaren was incredible in that Lakers game, and it didn't matter.
Mm-mm. Yeah, and so a couple things here in the comments that make a lot of sense to me. The Grizzlies are a great regular season team, just a good playoff projected team right now, and I think this is a big part of it. DG kind of nails it here.
My point. Yeah,
we're going to struggle depending on the matchup, and can they win in different ways? I'm not sure yet either, because like you said, Drew, you can tell in the first quarter. I told Maggie watching a Laker game the other night, you can tell in the first quarter how this game is going to end, and I knew midway through that first quarter that we were going to get beat. Now they pulled a Grizzly that they always do, and they bring you back to the brink of carrying again and to lose. Exactly.
The depth got you there, but it didn't get you through.
We don't know how to respond. It's like we come out in the first round of a boxing match and we get punched in the mouth and we throw everything out the window. I don't know that this offense is conducive to figuring out a new way to win. I love all the motion positionless offense. It's fun to watch. But when the game shrinks and it gets tight, I don't know that it's got the mettle to win. Case in point, the air raid is fun to watch in college. It's great. You can put up a ton of points against Bowling Green and Idaho Little Sisters of the Poor. And you can put up points against all these other schools. But then when it comes down to like meaningful football, how many air raid teams have won a championship recently? None. When the game shrinks, it's hard to manipulate that offense into a half-court style offense. And so my last point is I don't like the mental edge of where we sit right now. This team, and I don't mean this disrespectful, with all due respect to a great basketball team, we tend to get a little bit pouty and mopey when things aren't going our way early, and we slug through a game, and we end up losing by 6, but that game was never truly close until the fourth quarter when our depth and our bench helped us. I need to see, can this offense be effective in a half court? B, who is going to be mentally tough for us? Because this right here is the list. BC, Luke, and Edie, period, were the only players that looked tough enough and showed up with a mental edge to get us back in that game. More on Edie to come here in a minute.
Yeah, and I think that's a real challenge, and it's something that as a veteran team, now we're a veteran team. I think, Ja being in year 5, Jaren being in year 6, Desmond being in year 4, like we've got all these guys are on second contracts, and I kind of expect that mental jump at this point. Like you've got to, the great quarterbacks, they say they're almost psychotic because their blood pressure never gets up. They're very detailed, very maniacal, and they don't let things phase them. This team gets very behind, And when you get behind, they throw the baby out with the bathwater. And you've got to be able to just trust the process in every single play. This offense is good. I don't know that it's necessarily the offense that keeps us from beating good teams as much as it is just it seems like there's a panic. There's a you feel the weight on your chest when you get down instead of just going and playing basketball. And that's the reason why these guys like Luke Kennard and Jake LaRavia and the bench unit that comes in, like they're playing free.
Yeah.
They're playing the offense. And so it obviously it's getting us into games that we're down, but the starters are just not, and particularly John Morant and Desmond Bane are not getting you through.
Agreed. And to that point, like it does feel a bit though, like the offense, yes, I think the offense can work, but God rest his soul, RIP Mike Leach. I love the guy, but when things weren't going his way, he was going to run that bubble screen until it worked.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And like, I just don't, like we need to be able to change something in the half court when it's not working, like against the Lakers. There was a lid on the basket for us in transition. Dez was missing point blank layups early. Like there has to be a point where you say, okay, let's slow down and let's figure this out. And then you ramp the tempo back up. Yeah,
there's no doubt that half court basketball has been the bane of the Grizzlies' existence since Grit and Grind died. And so you've got to be able to figure that out. And the offense provides shots. I've had criticisms with the offense and particularly how it doesn't necessarily feature primarily your star players, but the offense does generate open shots. And on Sunday night, the Grizzlies just did not make those shots and they got down. And I think one thing that you mentioned earlier, which this will take us to our next topic. You mentioned earlier that, and Daniel mentioned it too, that they struggle with a change of matchup. Like they can't play multiple different ways. Well, when we drafted Zach Edey, that was the selling point. We can do things in multiple ways. And Zach Edey just hasn't been a part of this team until that Lakers game, and he was amazing.
Yeah, so a couple things on that. Like our offense kind of got us in a bind there a little bit too, because like there was a sequence I remember in the third quarter that was so frustrating where like Anthony Davis hit a three, Scottie Pippen took the inbound, ran down, and Marcus missed a layup early in the shot clock, went down, got a Cam Reddish dunk, immediately sprinted back down. I think Dez missed a shot, and then they got another Cam Reddish dunk. And all of a sudden, it's a 7-point swing, and we've had the ball for about 7 seconds total. And so, like, there just needs to be a point where you just slow down and figure it out. And Zach Edey could be a big part of that. Zach Edey finished the other night with a double-double, 13 and 10. And like you said in the postgame bounce, we have an Anthony Davis problem, but Zach Edey was a big part of that solution the other night. I do want to get to that. I want to talk about Zach. I like this point that DG talks about here. I think this is coming. So when do Jaren and Dez mold this offense into their own? I think it's coming to I think it's going to come to that because we see Taylor Jenkins recently has started playing his guys a little bit more. He's started to change. I think it was a whole organization decision to be on a minutes restriction. He's now starting to make the minutes his own and playing his better players more. I think the more they can be out there getting in a rhythm, I think they'll mold this offense into their own more. Yeah. But back to Zach Edey. When Zach Edey was in the game, we played more of a true conventional half-court offense. We have to. He was tired. He's running up and down the floor, but he played most of the fourth quarter. But we were able to get buckets. And this goes back to what Kleiman said on draft night, that teams are going to have to plan for Zach Edey because you and I have been saying this all along. He's going to make us better in the half court. We just need him out there.
Well, listen, they didn't, in my opinion, didn't do much to feature Zach Edey. He had 13 points. Is that right?
Yeah, 13 and 10.
13 points, but he had 8 offensive rebounds. And so you didn't really feature Edey, but he made his impact on the offensive glass. I still have my questions on how he works with Ja because Ja doesn't shoot many layups when Zach Edey's in the game, and that's a problem. But Zach Edey, his hands have gotten better. He's gotten stronger and gotten a feel for this higher level of play. And that showed because he had 8 offensive rebounds and against a team that was playing Anthony Davis, and a lot of those rebounds were amongst Anthony Davis.
Yeah,
and so,
that's huge. And that's
it's
can fit
interesting
in this offense and help us in a half court with this offense is getting open looks, you're missing shots. We need Zach Edey under the goal, catching those rebounds, putting those bunnies, kick outs, tap outs, whatever. That's how we're going to improve in the half court is through a guy like Zach Edey getting more minutes.
Yeah, and also in the half court, it's going to come down to making 3-pointers. I mean, that's just what it is. The offense generates open looks, and I've never beefed with the offense in that aspect. If you're making threes, you're going to win basketball games. It's just as simple as that a lot of times. And when this offense is generating open looks, Dez has got to hit them. Jaren's got to hit them. Whoever is taking that wing 3 or corner 3, except for Brandon Clarke. Has to hit them.
But this is the point. Like I see Zach Kleiman holding Taylor Jenkins' hands, holding John Morant's hands as they're molding this clay and figuring out this offense. But the blueprint for Zach Edey is there. Like he needs to, him and BC, which we'll talk about that, BC as well more here in a minute, need to be under the goal. Be in that old Steven Adams role where Steven Adams lived in the paint, where he didn't float out at the elbow and stand at the top of the key. Steven Adams was in the middle of the bodies down low for a tap out. And that's where, like, when these guys shoot threes, you need Zach Edey or Brandon Clarke below. Then you still need guys out. Dez, Tripp, Ja, whoever standing around the perimeter for those tap outs, because that's where Steven Adams made a career, and that's how Zach Edey can fit into this offense. And Brandon Clarke is good at it as well with those tap outs and offensive rebounds.
Yeah, I don't want Edey and BC on the court at the same time.
Agreed. But
you're going to listen. It's going to have to, like, Desmond Bane's going to have to get right. I mean, I know that you talked on the Daily Grind. I don't know if you want to broach it here. The idea that some people are starting to circulate of Desmond Bane moving to the bench. I think that's a stupid idea, but because he is the highest paid player on your team and he's going through a slump, and you ride your great players through their slumps. I don't
hate that. Listen, I'm not sitting here championing and saying he absolutely needs to happen. I'm just saying, like, be open to the idea. Like the $200 million thing, it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter whether or not he's starting, he's still going to get the minutes. Just because he's not out at the starting 5, say we eventually roll out a starting lineup of Ja, Vince, Gigi, Jaren, and BC, and that's where we start. Doesn't mean that Dez, like, with Taylor Jenkins still making his first subs at the 7 to 9 minute mark of the first quarter, Desmond Bane's still going to get a ton of run. But we have said all along, like, we need one of our big 3 on the court just about all the time. There's still going to be minutes where John, Dez are playing together, but if then you can roll and stagger that a little bit better, where then you've got a lineup of Scotty, let's say Dez, Jalen, Santi, and Edey out there, just for hypotheticals, like, then you still have a scorer and a guy that can get you buckets when you need it. Again, not taking minutes away, just simply moving him to a different role within the team.
Yeah, and if Desmond Bane is still struggling when Gigi and Vince come back and they have their sea legs and they're playing well, then I'll be willing to have this talk. But under no circumstances are you benching
right now
Desmond Bane for Marcus Smart or Luke Kennard.
Absolutely not.
Jake Ray, like, that's stupid.
Which kind of goes into another point that I want to make. Like, this team, I was firmly no trade all summer, and I was firmly no trade most of the season. But even last week. But some of the recent returns, like, I just still think we are one player away. I think we might end. Wayno, shout out Wayno, has been about this since the offseason. All of us are like, this is our championship window. And Wayno's like, it starts next year. It's not there yet. So he's been championing that as a mouthpiece in our comments. So shout out Wayno, you get credit for that.
I do disagree with that.
But I think that we can open that window a little bit further, a little bit sooner. And I think bringing in another body could help with that. I am super high on, like, I hope Kleiman didn't let Brooklyn out of the building last week without having a serious conversation with some of their upper management, at least about Cam Johnson. I know DFS is getting some hype, because he's shooting so well from 3. DFS is fine. Like, he doesn't move the needle for me, but I think if you go make a move for a guy like Cam Johnson, and then you can have a starting lineup of Ja, Vince, GG, Cam, and Jaren when it's fully healthy.
Bane, you're forgetting Bane.
I'm just saying, like
That's
down
sad.
the road, like because you don't move Bane to the bench, kind of circling all the way back. You don't move Bane to the bench without a splash trade like that either. I don't think
you don't move Bane to the bench unless Bane says, "Hey, I need to go to the bench."
And also this
GG's.
because Maggie is like Bane is her favorite player, and I think it's because of how he looks. And I don't blame her when she has to look at this all the time. But like Bane's a hooper, and again, like we're not moving him to the bench for Marcus or Luke, but you move him to the bench if he's open to it for a guy like a Cam Johnson or a big trade like that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I do still sit like I'm not going to be the guy that my opinions change drastically based on one night in Los Angeles, one loss in Los Angeles, in which Ja Morant and Desmond Bane didn't play well. Like, I'm just not going to overreact to that. And so I still sit where I was at last week with saying, like, this team is good enough to compete. Do I think that this team is good enough to beat Boston in a 7-game series? I don't think so. Not right now. However, your window is open and crazy things happen if you get in position, get yourself into that position. And so what do I want to see them like push their chips in and go get that guy? Absolutely. However, I'm not willing to do that if you've got to give up Gigi or,
Agreed.
or a massive potential cornerstone that you already have on the roster.
Agreed 100%. That's why I am on the, everybody talks about, I want to keep Marcus because of his vet mentality. You said it earlier, man. Like, we're in second contracts with both of these guys. If Ja and Dez and Jaren don't have that vet mentality already, that's on them. Like that. Yes, we don't have the playoff experience that Marcus Smart has. He's been to multiple Eastern Conference finals and played in some big series with Boston. Cam Johnson, some of these guys don't have that, right? Yes, that goes a long way. But if you're needing to rely on somebody like Marcus or like Steven Adams a couple of years ago when he was like, hey, guys, we got to quit going to the strip clubs every night or the clubs every night late before games. Like, we're professional basketball players, right? John, Darren, and Jess have been around this long enough to know, hey, we need to turn it up and play good basketball. And if you need Marcus being that guy, we've got bigger issues that we need to look at.
I'm 100% in agreement with that. Yeah.
And so if Brooklyn is willing to move off of Cam Johnson for Marcus and Luke, happy trails, man. Have a good one. Like that's a move that you can make because we should be able to rely on our guys to be those leaders.
Yeah. You've got to have your best player being the heart and soul of this team. And if there's one thing and there is only one thing that Ja Morant lacks, it is that. And I do believe he is a great teammate. I do believe that he is a great supporter. But at some point, you've got to be like, this stops now. And I hate seeing the emotions of non-basketball stuff enter into a basketball game, like the ref stuff, just different kind of nagging things. It's like, all right, you've got to put it behind you and let's move on. And that's one thing I've got to see going forward. And you can't bring in leadership mid-season. I'm with you on that. You can't bring in leadership. That's got to be in-house.
And it's got to come from one of your best three players, 12, 22, or 13. But speaking of heart and soul to this team, man, like one guy that I don't want to see traded, and I was earlier this season like, yeah, if we could ship this player off for a John Collins, then I would do it. But 7 of our top 10 best net rating lineups include one Brandon Clarke. BC is in 7 of our top 10 three-man lineups, including our best with a minimum of 150 minutes played is BC, Santi, and Jalen Wells at plus 20.8. Our highest, our lineup that has played the most, 251 minutes so far this year, is Jaren, BC, and Jalen Wells. That's a plus 5.9. And then our second at 200 minutes is Jaren, BC, and Scottie Pippen Jr., plus 11.8. Like, Brandon Clarke is the heart and soul of this basketball team. Like, he's not the flashy best player like Ja. He's not the best player that's going to go get you buckets like Jaren. But it's the old Xavier Tillman when you need him award goes to Brandon Clarke, because when he's on the floor, good things happen offensively, good things happen defensively. And it just seems like we play with an edge and definitely more athletic when Brandon Clarke is on the floor, which is why, talking rotations, I want him to continue to start with Zach Edey coming off the bench.
Oh, absolutely. I've been on this since before Zach Edey turned his ankle, and they made that swap in the starting lineup before he got hurt. I think it just opens up so much, and we've got 5 years of proof that Brandon Clarke and Jaren Jackson Jr. on the court together is amazing. It is just that simple sometimes. And so, yeah, I like Brandon Clarke in the starting lineup. There's not anybody on the bench that I think would do a better job, because if you take him out, you're talking about either Edey or Santi, and I feel like both of them are more suited for their talents to come off the bench.
As a change of pace, right? Because like Santi can go get you some rebounds and be a more athletic big, even a little bit more, well, probably not quite as athletic as a fully healthy BC. But then Edey is your half-court change of pace lug guy. And so I think for what we want to do,
you couldn't be more different than Santi and BC. I mean, they're totally different skill sets. Santi is either a 6th man of the year, and then or some games like the 13th man of the year. Like he was really bad again in that LA game. But listen, Santi Aldama is going to make some money in the offseason because of how he's played this year. He's been really good, and he should continue to come off the bench because he is an offensive dynamo. Maybe a dynamo is probably a little hard, but he's a scorer off the bench, not a scorer.
Again. I saw something the other day, and I wish I'd have bookmarked it on Twitter. I was just trying to look for it real quick to find it. But in games against teams that are above 500, Santi leads us in just about every statistical category. Like, he has stepped up when he's needed him. No, look, Wayne was talking about the Lakers game. Nobody played good in that game, not named BC, Luke, or Edey, right? And so Santi has stepped up in some big moments. I think Santi's playing for a big boy contract. Not talking 20, 30, 40 million, but Santi's going to get in the neighborhood of 12 to 15 million pretty easily.
Yeah, he's currently getting last pick of the first round money, and he's going to get major rotation player money. Now, he's not going to sniff a max contract, but he's going to make good money. And Daniel asked in the comments how much Santi gets. Listen, I'm the wrong guy to ask those kind of questions too. I do not know contracts, but I would imagine he would get, 15.
I think it's 12 to 15 million a year is what he's looking at, because like teams like New Orleans value his skill set. Like, his skill set is needed across the NBA. It's needed in Memphis. If you like feet to the fire right now, you have to sign or cut one of the two, Jake or Santi. I'm taking Santi, man. Like, I like what Jake has done. He's a hustle guy. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not a Jake hater. I just think Santi fits the direction of this offense and the way this team is going. And I think we need to keep him because of that.
Yeah. For the record, I agree. I would keep Santi over Luke. And so, I mean, you're going to have, we keep looking forward for the whole season now. We're still continuing to look towards the future to see who you've got coming in, and sometime in January I hope we get both Gigi and Vince back in, and then you're going to start having some more of the same questions. But coming around trade deadline day, maybe we don't have as many unknowns when it comes to the rotation and who gets what by the time they get here.
I just think I think there's so much smoke floating up right now. We have been linked to New Orleans, Brooklyn, Atlanta. We've been linked to Utah. Like, there's been several teams that we've, like, our name has come up with. Like, we're being too active to not make a move. And we're typically, Wayno said this in the comments this morning, like, we're typically like the third team that takes an expiring contract and some picks because we're a developmental team. We're trying to develop that team. I think that this year might be the first year that we're an actual player in one of those trades, where we're actually getting a Cam Johnson, a DeAndre Hunter type, Herb Jones, somebody that's being floated out there as a guy that could get traded. I think this might be the first year that we're actually one of the front runners of that trade, not the tertiary team that makes the math work.
It's kind of weird because we're always the team. We're very active in all talks. I think Zach Kleiman refuses to not answer the phone, and he's always got his finger. And that a lot of times that that leads to the Grizzlies being mentioned in rumors. However, we haven't quite done anything yet. And so eventually you would think the dam has to break and you do make that move. But don't be surprised if, it's like the guy that's always going up to the car dealership and looking at the vehicles, but never can quite part with the money that it takes to get the vehicle. Like at some point, we're probably going to do it.
Yeah.
I think you could probably take Herb Jones's name off the table. That report did come out yesterday that the Pelicans are listening to offers for anybody not named Herb Jones.
So I think that's kind of a smokescreen too. It may be true, but the same thing was said about Marcus Smart, right? That Marcus Smart is not a name that the Grizzlies are interested in trading. They want to keep him, blah, blah, blah. I think they're doing that to drive the price up. That yes, if you want him, it's going to that's a message of not, hey, we're not trading him. It's more of a, hey, if you want him, it's going to be more expensive than you thought. And
probably just trying to keep the peace in your locker room until it happens. Like it's better just rip the Band-Aid off rather than be like, who's the guy that like John Collins is like, there was rumors that he was going to leave Atlanta for 4 seasons until he finally did. And it just gets tiring to hear your name in those those rumors.
Sure. But I think if you're going to bring back a splash, it's going to take Marcus simply because to make the math work with what his contract is. And like DG said a few minutes ago, like if not, like worst case scenario, I think Marcus might be more valuable maybe this summer with an expiring deal than he is the trade deadline. But I think if you want to be competitive and show, hey, I am like we're for real about competing this year, you're going to have to make a move involving Marcus Smart to get a player.
And I do think Marcus gets traded. However, I would rank him pretty low in the list of players that I would be okay with trading because I am not a Marcus Smart hater. I do love what he brings to the game in big games, and so we'll see how it works out. The trade deadline is February 6th, if I remember that correctly. We got a lot of time, and we're going to hear a lot more rumors until then. But until then, the Grizzlies are 28-9. They've won 8 out of their last 10.
18-9.
Or 18-9.
I wish we were 28-9.
They've won 8 of their last 10. So everybody that's standing over the edge, looking down, wondering how long it'll take to hit the bottom, just back up. We're okay. Like
same with Desmond Bane.
It's a long season. We've got a lot more critical games coming up in which you're going to have your mettle tested, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Same with Desmond Bane. Take a breath. We are barely a season removed from him being a fringe all-star player, from being a competitor in the three-point competition. It's just taken some time to get used to that level defensively. He's still getting his rebounds and assists. Desmond Bane is going to be fine. He's also going to be a Memphis Grizzlies. So instead of wasting all this thought, energy, and breath on Twitter of all these trade scenarios where you're trading Desmond Bane, stop it. Get some help. He's part of the foundation of this team, and he is not going anywhere.
We have got a prime opportunity to sit here for 4 days, or now 2 days, and just bask in the hatred of Golden State.
Yes.
And we're choosing it to cannibalize ourselves. Like, we've got 4 days in between losing to the Lakers and playing the Golden State Warriors. We should use that hatred. For these 4 days on those two teams, not the team that we love.
The team we root for. And furthermore, like what would be a better palate cleanser? You go out to LA, you get embarrassed after you talk crazy and you get your butt kicked to come home wearing the Sounds jersey. The giveaway is Memphis Sounds Christmas wrapping paper. I'm thinking about going just for that. And just beat the crap out of Golden State. Like, because I guarantee you, Drew, Memphis Grizzlies Twitter will be like night and day if we come out and just hammer Golden State in Memphis and just bury them like we know that we can. All of a sudden, everybody's gonna be back up on their high horse.
And that's the reason why I feel like sometimes I'm the only one that wants to just take everything in stride, because I know that we could get outraged over the LA game. But if we go beat the Warriors, I mean, we're going to be talking about hanging a banner again. Like,
that's it. Everybody planning the parade.
Let's just take everything in stride, try to see the marginal corrections from game to game, and then let's just have fun.
Yeah,
This is
that's
an 82-game season. We are not halfway through it, and we're in month 3. Okay.
And then second place in the West. Like, we are fine. We're fine in the West. Shout out John Morant.
Yeah. And we get to see Dennis Schroeder again.
I know. I saw that, man. Like, I hate that guy. Like, you talk about a Grizz killer. Him, Rui, and CJ McCollum are going to be on like the Grizz killer Mount Rushmore one day of guys that just absolutely cook us.
I'm not scared.
And now we get to play him 6 times
anymore.
a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not scared of CJ McCollum anymore.
I'm talking about just a pantheon of all-time Grizz killers. Like, they would be near the top. But that's going to do it for that's going to do it for our show today. We are at our 45-minute mark. We appreciate y'all being here. Thanks for hanging out. Come back Thursday, 12 o'clock noon. We're going to talk about the changing NBA landscape. We're shooting more threes than ever before. What does that mean for this Memphis Grizzlies team in trades, in future moves? Or do we need to do anything? Tune in on Thursday. We'll talk more about it. But in the meantime, you got to take everything you hear here with a grain of salt, because there are no refunds for what you hear on the $2 Sports Show.
That's right. Hear. Folks, you always get what you pay for. Judge Rusty said, hear, hear.
Hear.
See you Thursday.
See y'all Thursday.
Thank you for listening to the $2 Sports Show. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. For comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports, head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co and find out how you can become an insider. We will see you back here next time.